Well, hello. I am here with Daniel Tardy, who is a cosmic being and a beautiful heart and an incredible guide who has led me through a process of detoxification and a process of getting connected to my light. And his company, Get Light, is what we're here to talk about today. And I am actually celebrating 1 year from completion of my detoxification journey, because it was certainly a journey. So, Daniel, welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be on the line with you and in celebration of you always.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you.
So, I can certainly talk about my journey and my experience with you, but can you just share a little bit about Get Light and, your initial intentions behind that name, which has so many, like the double entendre, the triple
Yeah.
entendre. There's so many nuances that I experienced. And so tell us about Get Light.
Yes. Well, Get Light started with me, and I didn't know I was Mr. Get Heavy. I was living here in Costa Rica, eating some of the best foods that we have access to on the Caribbean side. And for some reason, I still felt really dense. This was about 3 years ago. And I just remember eating like the best fruit and people water and the best salads. I was just making, yeah, just how I had done for years up until that point. I was just, yeah, optimal health as far as what I knew health to be. And what I realized is that my body was dense, it was heavy. I had brain fog, my creativity was low, so obviously my sacral energy was just like not on fire. And through yeah, number of reflections, specifically I was listening to a podcast about the microbiome and about the gut. And in this podcast, and this person became a mentor of mine, the person was saying, hey, if your creativity is low, if you're lacking, that fire, if your metabolism is off, if your finances are shaky, you might want to check your gut. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like that is exactly what's happening to me. And I just never knew that if I ate healthy, that there was the potential of me not fully being on fire, fully being as optimal health wise as, what I wanted to be. And what I eventually discovered is that, well, I discovered the world of detoxification, which is what is detoxification? There are many definitions. There are many people sort of saying and promoting this idea of detoxification. For me, detoxification is letting go of the things mentally, energetically, emotionally that no longer serve you, using a specific protocol and a process, right? So I took myself, after figuring out what was going on in this body, I took myself through a 6-week protocol that I designed myself, that I, yeah, did months of research about. And specifically, this was related to parasite cleansing, to be honest. And I didn't know anything about parasites at the time. It didn't weird me out at all because, I feel like, yeah, the body's capable of probably housing just about anything. Uh, but what it showed me is the specific herbs that are related to parasites or being anti-parasitic are also related to a body that is inflamed, a body that's overheated, a body that's stressed. Those same herbs can help also soothe and cool the body. So during this 6-week process, that absolutely changed my life. It changed my perception. Like my physical reality actually shifted in front of me. And at this point, I had done maybe 30, 35 plant medicine ceremonies. And this process blew that out of the water, honestly. Not that didn't have value, but this was ultimately the internal change that I really needed in order to change what I was seeing and what I was sensing in my physical reality. And it did. And then I did it twice, and then, lots of things happened after that. I changed locations. Of course, my financial reality changed. I started giving this information away to people. People were coming into my space saying, like, oh, yeah, I'm having digestive issues, or, oh, I think I have parasites. And I just so happened to be in the middle of this. And so eventually, what I designed was a process so that people could easily step into a cleanse, be guided, have everything that they needed sort of delivered to their door, and heal their body, heal their situation. And so that is basically the short version of the origin story of Get Light. And yeah, I haven't looked back since, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know when I came to you, I remember the first time that we spoke, I was in bed and I was so sick.
Yeah.
I was so sick. I definitely had some parasite stuff going on. Um, and I mean, just like the physical pain that I was in, the complete depletion of my life force and my energy. And we had spoken, I think, on the first day. And then the next day we spoke again. And I was in a cafe because in Costa Rica, you know how it is, right? Like I couldn't get back to my home on time to meet you at the time that we were supposed to talk. So I like park it in a cafe and I order this like big frothy coffee, like situation, right? Thinking comfort food, like it's gonna like soothe my
Yeah.
intestinal tract and it's gonna make me feel better. And you're bringing me through like the the 3 weeks and the 6 weeks and the 9 weeks. And I think initially I might have picked the 6 weeks and then we ended up with the 9 weeks. I don't even remember,
Yeah.
but I remember a couple days later after I had committed to you, and like I don't even think that I had paid you at that point, but I am a, woman of my word, and I had like said yes, and I made this commitment both time-wise, financially, like to my health. And then holy
Yep.
shit, I
Yep.
was so mad. I was so angry. And I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fit this in? Like, it was a lot. It was like all these recipes and all these ingredients and this protocol of like really having to follow the structure and the timeline and, eating earlier in the day, like, from a girl from America, an Italian girl from
Yeah.
America, like, we're sitting down to dinner at 7:45 with bread and wine and pasta, right? Like
Yep.
the worst
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly.
It took me some time to sort of come into cooperation with what I had agreed to. And I will say this, and like I will say this as hope for people out there who really have the intention of moving into something like this. I feel like my spirit was like my accountability partner
Mm, mm,
in a way.
mm.
Yeah, I feel that too. Like my essence knew where I was headed. My essence knew the power of what was to come for me if my personality could just get on board.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that bring forward for you? Like as I share all that.
Well, first of all, I remember this process that you're telling me about. And when I first met you, I was like, this woman is full power. And I felt your intention in my body, in my being. And I knew that this was the exact process and protocol for you. I knew that this would get you to where you wanted to go. And I didn't know how much it would be a shift from what you were used to, because the protocol is meant to provide structure so that people no longer have to have guesswork around what to do or what not to do. And that's actually what people want. People want containment. We actually want the narrow path so
Yeah.
that we don't get distracted over here and that we don't get lost over here. We want a little bit of a narrow path that has more momentum, okay, that ultimately is guiding us towards what you're saying is that soulful journey. That is the soulful journey. And typically the path is like, well, maybe I'll do this for a little bit. And then we veer off to the right and hit the rumble strips. And then we veer off and somebody's beeping their horn like, hey, wait, we want that clear, open path way towards our highest version of self. And through this process, we're doing that by eliminating physical and emotional toxicity that we've been dragging forward in our life, both in this life and past life. So, for sure, each person that decides to start a process like this, there's always going to be interference and resistance because
Yeah.
this is the path that people actually want. And I'm not saying it's the path because I created something.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's the path because of what it actually is. What people are doing is they're communing with nature through the use of herbs. Okay. Herbs are one of the most potent forms of plant material in God consciousness that we still have access to that has not been tampered with. Okay.
Mm.
So there's this idea of like non GMO and plant based. Herbs are still the original source of information from this planet and probably beyond, because many people don't know this, but many plants align with different planets. Okay, look how close those words are. Plants, planets. So you could be taking, if a person that is into astrology, or as people are, interested in these sorts of topics, if people are lacking in certain aspects of their life, okay, like if you're lacking in abundance, then we know that that's ruled by Jupiter, then you would actually work not only with the liver, but you would work with herbs that are aligned to Jupiter. Okay, but that's,
Mm.
that
Mm.
gets us really
No, I
specific,
love this. I love this. It scrambles my mind a little bit, but like it's so wild and cool. And
Yeah.
I get it and I feel it. And
Yes.
you said a physical and emotional detoxification, but I also want to throw in here, and this is a whole other conversation, but it was also an energetic
Yeah.
detoxification for me in a very, very, very big way.
Mm.
As I was reliant on some energetic practices that really were not serving me. And as I made my way through this process and got more clarity
Mm.
about my own truth, about who I was, about what I'm doing here, about where my power is and where my power is not.
Mm.
There was a huge reclamation for me of ownership and like sovereignty that really, really came in for me in a very big way.
Yeah. Yeah. Speak about the energetic processes that weren't serving you, and speak about maybe more specifically where the energy was going, where you weren't being met, that this provided that clarity and that additional sovereignty over your being.
Yeah. Well, without going into the details of it, I would encapsulate it to share that I was giving my power away in the sense that I was making things and people and stuff outside of me more powerful than what was inside of me. And I had been doing that for such a long time. It was almost like being lazy a little bit, to be honest. It was like, I was like, oh, I have this problem. Can you fix it for me? And I would just like put in my order for like the energetic fix, and it worked, right? Like it worked, and presto. But over time, there was a leakage, there was a
Mm,
draining, and there was a diminishing of my own light,
mm,
of my own light. And as I went through this, and you know, we are cyclical beings, and there's the high cycles and the low cycles, and we're going up the coaster and down the coaster and in the valley and on the hill. We're not static, but my clients would experience this, like this reclamation of power that was coming through me, this like the embodiment of more light as I was moving myself through this process, because they were like, whoa, dude,
mm.
like what is happening, you know? So
Yes.
that was really cool and rewarding and satisfying. And you know, this fit for me a really big piece of like why I came to Costa Rica, like
Mm,
why my soul called me here was for this re-engineering of the way that I live, and this re-engineering of this vessel.
mm,
And, you know, so here we are a year later. I now spend every Sunday for like 2 or 3 hours, depending on how elaborate I want to be, every Sunday in the form of what I consider to be now a ritual, preparing food for the week
wow.
so that
I
I
I
am
didn't know that.
set up for
Yeah.
success. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. And like this morning, and it's so funny how you're talking about the herbs and um the God consciousness in the herbs. Like every morning, I also have a ritual where I make myself a smoothie, but I touch the herbs every
Mm,
morning. And Daniel, I swear to God, I get a clearing. I get an energetic clearing. I can feel the love and the power coming off these herbs as I'm like pulling these live plants apart to cleanse them and put them in my Vitamix.
yeah.
And this has become a very necessary part of the general maintenance
Yeah.
of the optimization of this vessel
Yeah.
and the work that I am here to do in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let's let that breathe, because that's beyond powerful, and a powerful reflection, and what you've stepped into and solidified for yourself as a foundation that you now stand proudly on is something to like, you know, like it's a big
And I
deal.
am proud of myself because, you know, like you remember, I had such a like yeah, like,
Yeah.
I'm Italian and I'm going to eat whatever the F I want anytime. And I had gotten away with that. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Now I'm going to be 57, which is like, holy shit
Yeah.
balls.
Yeah.
But I had been able to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, with no consequence for
Yeah.
so long, for so, so long.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, I was like, I was poisoning myself.
Mm. Yeah. And what I want to add to that piece is poison is giving ourselves too much or too little of something,
Mm,
right? So it's always relative to where a person is at. And when it comes to you, and people can reflect on this for themselves, where are you at in your life? What are you creating at what level are you creating at? And is
mm,
there a desire to up level? Is there a desire to step into a new version of self? That's where you were. Okay.
yeah.
So you knew that if you kept doing sort of the same old, then yeah, it would be ultimately poisoning or sabotaging, yourself, specifically the body. because the body at the frequency you were wanting and desiring to operate at needed a whole different system
Yeah.
of input, you know,
Yeah.
different information, uh, less um, less stagnation, right? More optimization, right?
Yeah.
And so more fire, but fire in a way where you're really directing it, not fire where it feels like it's out of control and is burning everything down.
Burning shit down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would say, especially for people that are listening to this, is you can reflect now on where you are at, which stage you are at, which cycle you are at in your life, because we're also in the seasonal cycles. Okay. And based on that, there's always something that can enhance that aspect of where you are, no matter what it is. If you're in a rest and development phase where you need to, hey, I need to unplug for a little bit, I need to retreat, I need to go off and be with myself and gain clarity that way, there's a process of working with the plants that bring the introspection, they bring the mental clarity, they bring the subtleties to what you're sensing and feeling, and they also help dissipate things that we've kind of been holding on to, because that's the other piece is some of what gets cleared are the things that you're no longer doing, right? And then when you're no longer doing those things, you're no longer even thinking the same thoughts that are relative to doing those things. Like, oh, maybe I should do that. You're not doing that anymore, but the thought sometimes is still there, like, oh, maybe I should. Oh, wait, I'm not doing that anymore. Wherever that energy was going in thinking and doing those things, now you have that as a resource that you can use in your daily life, whether that's if you're in the rest and repair, right? The relax, right? The parasympathetic, or if you're in that, I'm ready to up level, I'm ready to take action, I'm ready to move this thing forward, right? There's a process for all when it comes to this. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I was on my way to acknowledge myself and I lost track of it, but I really acknowledge myself for the commitment that I made to this because the the rewards are so many. You know what I mean? There's so many like physical rewards in the physical world that were so tangible. I lost 15 pounds
hmm,
of inflammation.
mm,
My skin is radiant, my hair is stronger, my hormones are balanced.
mm,
My sleep is like amazing. Like there's just so many wonderful physical things that happened. Emotionally, detoxifying myself from some of the debris and the garbage and the congestion and the just the clog of some gunk. Um, my commitment is so connected to the fruits of all of that. And so
yeah,
that just feels so good. It's been like such a major esteem booster. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, holy smokes, I made it 9 weeks. I made it
yeah,
9 weeks. And not only did I make it 9 weeks, I've made it a year because it doesn't mean that I don't put bread in my mouth anymore or don't eat pasta. It doesn't mean that I don't occasionally have some half and half in my coffee,
yeah,
but my choices are very different now. And my body like craves those choices, craves
yes.
those positive choices. It's really weird and interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like your body's like, yeah, babe, let's have some more of that green, whatever it is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like we really are changing ourselves from the inside out because we're changing ourselves from the inside out. The self is always the cell.
The cells.
So when we start to heal at a cellular level, we become the optimal cell in our environment. So also when we're sort of wondering like why is my life like this? It's like chaotic, what's going on? then that means that that part of us, that because we're the center of ourself, we are the cell in the environment. When we optimize ourselves, the other cells all of a sudden realize what they are. Like, oh, okay, got it. Like I'm this sort of cell. So we need to develop this sort of system around us in order to be what it is that we need to be. This is what happens at a body level, especially uh, uh, when the cells are starting to split in mitosis and like little tiny beings are being formed. All those cells are splitting in order to organize themselves into organs, organize organ, right? So
Mm.
all cells have the ability to be all things. So you as a cell, especially in this cosmic being that we live in, you were deciding what it is that you wanted to be, how you wanted to show up for yourself and all the beings around you. That's your family, that's your partner, that's for your clients, right?
Yeah.
This is the decision that was happening at the deepest level, right? And that is rebirth in and of itself. And I also want to paint the picture for some that may be having or feeling or experiencing the destructive aspect of that, where they are the caterpillar, right? Melting itself in order to cocoon itself, in order to transition through this void, through this unknown into something greater than what they know themselves to be, right? Many people, especially right now, are going through that. I myself am going through that in different parts of my life. And this is a function of our evolution,
Yeah.
right? Especially in this human body. Now, what happens when we don't evolve? We don't necessarily devolve, but the body will get to the point where it's like all alarms are going off, right?
Yeah.
Inflammation is one of those alarms. Autoimmune disease is one of those alarms. Indigestion or the inability to process what we're putting inside of our body is an alarm that we are no longer able to process the environment or the situations or the energy that we're putting ourselves in, which is also an invitation to, okay, okay. What do you want to do next? I'm ready. The body's always ready, right? To bring you into the next state of your existence. Always, right? Even
Yeah.
when there's quote unquote sickness or there's a flu, the body is actually into a phase of hyperimmunity, right? It's healing itself. Different cells are being allocated for different functions in the body. The body goes into a rest and repair phase. Okay. So the body, I always want to tell people the body is hyper intelligent, it's hyper sentient. Okay. And if we ever want to give it a boost, what it wants us to do is be on its team, to know what's happening inside. And the herbs, right, because they're sentient, as sentient, if not more so than us, they are what are giving us access to the deeper intelligent processes that are happening inside. So all of a sudden, for people that weren't able to access or feel certain things in their body, right? Because inflammation should also come with an emotion. It should come with a sense of feeling. If we're disconnected with that, then the inflammation is there, but we're doing the exact opposite and we're increasing the inflammation. As soon as you take, let's say, herbs that are anti-inflammatory, right, or soothing to the digestional tract, or bringing you a a deeper awareness of what's happening internally, all of a sudden you know what your body feels like and what your body is calling for, because the herbs become the bridge between your mind and your internal mind, right?
Mm.
So now you're being instructed and directed very specifically on what to give the body and when. And this is where you're at. And it doesn't take long. I don't want people to think like, oh, it takes a year or it takes 9 weeks. That can happen when people are doing, let's say, the microbiome process. That can happen in a matter of like 2 weeks. where people are like, oh my gosh, my inflammation has gone down. And my cravings were right, which are those
Right.
automatic things that are happening in the body, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that intelligence can come online in a matter of a few weeks, and then it's all uphill from there, mostly.
The other, being a year out from this for me has been an invitation to go even deeper into the emotional body and even deeper into, um, really the acceptance of the personality in my own evolution, which has been really difficult and painful and challenging. And I wouldn't trade it for anything because this is why we're here. This is what the human experience is really all about, and the gifts of the human experience that deliver this profound healing and growth and learning, which is why we got a body to begin with.
Mm,
So, as I'm touting all of these like amazing results, I mean, I don't have any joint pain anymore, really, to speak of. Like that was a huge, huge one for me. Um, I'm still in it, I guess is what I'm saying. Like there is no destination that we arrive to. And I just think that that's so important for people to like check themselves with and know that healing isn't linear. A process like this isn't linear. And yeah, we can say the cleanse is going to start on this day and end on that day, but we're really dynamic, multifaceted, interdimensional beings that are on a continuum of the
mm,
experience that we're here to have.
mm.
And this process for me has invited me into some of the richest, deepest, most fulfilling and rewarding personal growth work that I have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, whew. Yeah, that almost brings tears, to my eyes, because I never actually know what a person will fully experience in their own being. I know the processes, I know to deliver the plants to people's door. I know to set them up as far as foods to eat and not to eat, but I'm never as much in it as they are to know what the personal transformation is going to be like for them. I know the potentialities, but I don't know the specifics. And to hear you say that, again, brings me so much gratitude for being shown that this was part of my journey, part of my dharma, part of how I
Yeah.
give and enhance people's lives. So thank you so much for being on the receiving end of that, because yeah, you really showed me a different level of commitment that I didn't know people had access to. Like
Mm.
you're a creator, right? You're an author. You like, some people would even maybe see you and say, well, gosh, I can't be where she's at, like, or I'm not where she's at, or right, that sort of thing. And because it's not a linear thing, ultimately what you're maybe shedding light on is, when we have clarity, we can make quantum leaps.
Mm.
Things can change in our reality that no longer make sense to the rational mind. And
Yeah.
so I know that you're a quantum being, right? You had already accepted this quantum aspect of yourself and have been operating in that way for a while. And you knew that what you were going to do next was for sure a quantum leap, and that this time the body would need to be up to speed with the quantum leap that you were about to make, you know?
And
So, yeah,
I'm still
yeah,
making, but
yeah,
it was like, this was getting the engine ready, you
yes,
know, for what's to come.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you again for committing to that. And what would you say to people that are maybe experiencing different states of disease in their body, or maybe their nervous systems aren't regulated, or maybe they even have in their environment situations or relationships that seem to be antagonistic to their desires right now, right? What would you say to people that are in that state?
Um, this is a reset. This is like a way to reboot the system. This is a way to give the divine natural order and harmony that moves through every single being on the planet the strength, the space, the ability that it needs to work on your highest and best good on your behalf without interference. You know, we interfere with the things that we put in our mouth, with the old hurts and wounds that we carry around, with the judgments, opinions, and perceptions that we hold about who we are and how the way the world operates. This is really an invitation to undo all of that, even if it's for a finite amount of time, and to reboot the system. Like I think that that's really the best sort of like terminology for it. And here's what I want to say as a middle aged woman, for 3 years before I moved to Costa Rica, um, boy, did I suffer. Like I was suffering with hormone imbalance, with weight gain, with joint inflammation, with physical pain and discomfort. And all I kept doing was band-aiding it. Like, oh, I'll have this supplement, I'll take that supplement, and I'll do this supplement. And it was a mess. I was a mess. And I think we shy away from things because we don't want to experience discomfort. And I just want to remind all of the women that may be watching this. Yeah, we don't like it. We don't like discomfort. We want to avoid it, but we can do it. We can do it for a higher purpose. We can do it as a way to honor and love and revere ourselves and our bodies and our lives. It's like, this is our vehicle. This is the vehicle that we have for the rest of the time that we're here. So, are you going to stay cramped up and miserable and uncomfortable the way that you are today, suffering, or can we open ourselves to a process, right? Because growth is a process that can absolutely be life-changing on every single level of your consciousness. And, I know as a breast cancer survivor and as a transformational coach and someone who has a master's degree in spiritual psychology, healing can only happen when change takes place on all 4 levels of our consciousness: mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And we can't leave out any one of those 4 components or healing doesn't happen. And this is, our medical system, we deal with one category at a time. And when we begin to recognize our wholeness, when we begin to accept and embrace our multidimensionality, and that we are operating in all of these different ways, when we can open ourselves to a healing approach that embraces all of those levels, now we're cooking with gas,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a potent message for people to really take in. you know, all of that. This is herbs are the real whole food, you know,
Mm.
like truly, 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 you know. And I'm so grateful that they found their way into my life because they became a vehicle not only for myself to receive the clarity in order to stay on this path and to keep going, but they gave me clarity on how to deliver the access rights, right? The divinity that is already within people from the moment that they get here. And this is the return to
Mm.
that original sense of self,
Yeah.
right? That your origin story can begin again right now
Yeah.
when you make simple changes like this to your being. So first I would say if people are like, "Oh, okay, well what do I do next?" right? If
Well,
you
that
just
was going to
take
be my next question.
yeah, 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 yeah. If you take me out of it, ask yourself, what is your relationship right now to this planet? Are you an ally? Okay. Are are we or you, because all of us are doing this in different ways, taking advantage of this environment that we live in? Are we finding deeper ways to align with ourselves and then therefore the environment? And then are we being conducive to the change that we want to see on this planet? So depending on where people are will determine ultimately what they do next. And if people want to deepen their relationship with both their toxic selves, right, which we can look at as the shadow self, if we're wanting to deepen the relationship with that part of self and simultaneously eliminate, right, or help neutralize those toxic aspects of ourselves or bring them into a state of clarity where we can be with them with no judgment, then this process of detoxification could be one for you. If we're dragging the past, or if it feels like we're dragging a past that didn't even happen to us, that is something that we're carrying that's not even our own, that's maybe generational or ancestral, this process is for you.
Every human on
Because,
the
yes, you're right. We're all, yes, exactly. We're all in that.
sorry. I mean,
Yes, it's true. It's true. It's true.
yeah.
If a person is in a strong state or a subtle state of disease or imbalance, and you want a system that has structure and cadence and rhythm to it so that you don't have to create that necessarily for yourself, although this will align with, again, what's innate within you. This process is for you. If you're up leveling and you're like, I'm ready to go to the next level, and there's still a little baggage here, and I don't want to take that with me, and or I have relationships, okay, that seem to be dragging me down. It's my parents, it's my partner, it's my brother, it's my sister, it's right. This process is for you. And the reason I say that is that no, at no point when you enter into this process do you have to deal with any of those things externally, because ultimately what's happening is there's an alchemical process that's needed and necessary in order for you to see those things as what they are, which is a pure form of God presence, of God love. And if we're not seeing the external like that, then ultimately we're not seeing ourselves clearly. And so the first part of this work is to clarify your body, clarify your vessel so that you can start to see yourself clearly. And once you start to see yourself clearly, everything starts to become more and more crystal clear. And the things that you thought that were external to you, that were physical to you, that were dragging you down or keeping you out of right this higher state of awareness or higher state of being or your future self, that future self will be coming at you at light speed because you'll actually have the capacity to receive the information that is needed and necessary to be that, because you are that now. It's just about creating space in your body, in your vessel, in your cells to receive that information, to receive that light. And that is what get light means.
Mm.
Okay. It's a process of letting go, a process of elimination, a process of making space in your body, in your awareness, opening your channels. And then it's about receiving the information that is cosmic, sometimes physical, but mainly cosmic light information that's coming into you, that's
Mm.
informing you to be who you truly are.
Mm. Deep breath. Daniel, if anyone who's watching is ready to make contact with you and to learn more about what a journey would look like for themselves through something like this, where can we find more information?
Yeah. So you can visit me on the website at store.getlighttoday.com. You can also find me on Instagram at get.light.today. You can also type in get light today and it should also come up. And book a free session, or if you're deeper on your journey and you just want clarity in your life, book a detox consultation. Either way, I want to make sure that people are receiving exactly what they're wanting to receive at this time, at whatever level, at whatever quantity a person is capable of receiving right now. And then we go from there. And in Costa Rica, as they say, poco a poco, little by little. Okay. Take on what you can and are willing to take on, and just know that through this process, that will open and increase for you. So yeah, that's how to find me.
Thank you for your service to the world, on the planet. Thank you for your heart and the brilliance of your being and who you are and how you lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. Thank
Love
you.
you too, Daniel. Thank
Yeah.
you.